Hello, everybody. Just so you know, you can actually join me for an episode on this podcast by going to ajconsultingcompany.com. This is a unique podcast where I work hard to give you pristine audio quality and create the #1 DNA podcast in the world. You can also choose to do, of course, a confidential DNA analysis over at ajconsultingcompany.com. All you need is your 23andMe data. So I hope you check it out. Now, a little bit about me. I am a Mayo Clinic scientist. I run AJ Consulting Company. I'm an author. I also have 2 YouTube channels. One is called Anthony J Cast, where I focus on scientific content. And the other channel is called Anthony J Family Cast, where I literally cast fishing lines and I film various outdoor adventures, mostly adventures of my kids. Anyway, today I talked to David Vader, who's a biohacking hobbyist from Australia, and just an awesome guy. Really interesting conversation. He had some cool stuff on nicotinamide riboside, which is also called NR, and some interesting experiences with that. We also talked just about the power of genetics in general, and just overall, we had an interesting and fun conversation. Hope you enjoy it.
Hello.
David.
Hey, you can hear me okay?
Oh yeah, I hear you well. What time is it over there?
Oh boy, it's 10:30 p.m. here.
Yeah. It's 7:30 a.m. over here.
Oh geez,
So
yeah.
It's always tricky. And
Are you like a morning person?
Thing. What's that?
Are you a morning person?
No.
No.
But I mean, I generally wake up at about 6:30 or 7.
Yeah, right on.
Although I have spurts of doing 5:30 and.
Oof. Yeah, I can't do it.
Yeah.
I feel like my brain doesn't function before 9.
Yeah. And which part of Australia?
I'm down in Melbourne, which is right on the
Okay.
southeastern.
Yeah.
And in a
Yeah,
state called Victoria.
I've never been to Australia, but I've wanted to.
Oh yes, you should come down, man. We welcome everybody.
Oh yeah. Well, I've been watching. There's a show on TV called Gold Rush.
Oh yeah.
And they're doing a bunch of special episodes in Queensland, I think, or the Northern Territories, or somewhere. It's just basically they're out hunting for gold.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. There's a lot of gold in Victoria as well, the state that I live in.
Oh yeah.
Apparently.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, it seems like everywhere they go around Australia, there's unbelievable gold. It's just so hot and miserable and dry. It's hard to get it out of the ground.
Is it like a recent show? Because I've heard that there's, as a result of COVID, there's a whole bunch of, filming that's occurring in Australia just because we didn't really get hit that hard.
Right. No, it's been around. Just the idea of going to Australia is new, so maybe might have some bearing. I'm not sure.
Yeah, right.
That's funny. Well, good. Yeah, man. So you're ready to talk DNA?
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. I guess I'll follow your lead on how you structure things. I don't know.
Yeah. Did you get the PDF?
Yes.
Perfect.
I was like stunned at a couple of the things in there.
Oh yeah. Right. Well, which ones? Just out of curiosity.
It's just like, it's amazing because, some of these things I know about myself just, as a person, as a 32-year-old guy that's grown up and gotten to know himself a little bit. And one of the things that stood out was the caffeine. I've always kind of known that my body tends to keep caffeine longer.
Yep.
If I have a coffee, a second coffee, anywhere after 2 p.m., I just have trouble sleeping.
Right. Yeah, isn't that funny? Some people, they try and quantify the exact half-life, how many hours it stays in your body.
Right.
But a lot of times when you have those anxiety genes from caffeine, like you've got 3 anxiety genes from caffeine.
Yeah.
It triggers, like a more of a fight or flight response that stays in your body for a lot more hours than the caffeine as well. So yeah, your caffeine, you don't burn caffeine particularly well in your liver.
Great.
Which is the gene just below that, but it also triggers anxiety, so it's like a lose-lose.
Yeah, it's the autonomic nervous system, right? So that anxiety, because I feel like I'm I don't really suffer from the negative effects of anxiety, but I feel like the same thing that is anxiety triggering is, I guess, arousing in other ways. Like I just
Yeah, look, and I always tell people, I get anxiety from caffeine also, but I I don't stop drinking it all the time. I cycle it. Sometimes I do stop, but most of the time I'm drinking coffee.
Yeah.
And I try and channel the anxiety. I try and do paperwork that I don't want to do and things like that. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just bad if it gets over a certain threshold, or if it's problematic.
Yeah, totally. No, that's something I definitely connect with, man. It's amazing. It's just, I was just joking with a friend earlier that this is almost like a horoscope, but
I know.
It's real life.
I say that all the time to people. I say it's like the crystal ball, like it's a powerful tool. Once you pick out the big genes. I mean, and that's what we'll try and just focus on the plus genes, because those are genes where you've got a bad version from your mother and a bad version from your father. Not always. Not every gene on here is bad, but most of them I focus on are problematic genes, because I'm not interested in your good genes. Right?
So I know who to blame.
Yeah, well, the thing is that with the pluses, you can't tell which parent gave you which plus necessarily. But yeah, you can pretty much
sometimes
guess
it's written all over their face.
Exactly. And then the plus minus is that means you do have a good copy of a gene. You have one bad copy and one good copy.
Okay.
So less of a problem, although every once in a while we'll bring one up. For the most part, I would just look at the paragraphs that are on there and, just see if you're interested in if you have the issue. Because sometimes with that good gene, the good copy of a gene, it overrides the bad copy. Sometimes the bad copy overrides the good copy. Those are harder to predict. Does that make sense?
Yeah. One of the other things that really stood out was metformin.
Yeah.
You mentioned that I'm in this report that I'm a high responder.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's a plus minus, but in my experience, that's a plus plus. I actually wrote. I'm a writer, and I wrote a blog article on my experience taking metformin.
Interesting.
Something I took for anti-aging. I'd heard about it. I had some friends started taking it.
What's your blog?
It's vaderific.wordpress.com. That's just my personal kind of biohacking thing.
Yeah, man.
It's
so it drops your blood sugar, improves your metabolism. I mean, what are some of the impacts?
Yeah, and it's so strange because I took it almost as a supplement, not thinking it was anything really. And then a week later, I started kind of, for the first time ever in my life, having these intense panic attacks, these anxiety attacks. And again, something that I never really suffer. Like, I'm lucky in that way. But then I start getting these sensations of like almost paranoia. And so I went to the doctor because I didn't even think that it was the metformin. I'd gotten it from just a off-label supplier, not through a doctor. So I went to the doctor and I was like, I don't know what's happening, but I feel really strange and I'm worried. And he was like, have you changed anything in your diet? And that's when it triggered me to think, oh God, yeah, I'm taking metformin. And I looked it up and it's not super common for this to happen, but definitely triggered something. Yeah, in my response.
Wow. So you had a bad experience with it.
Very bad. And I stopped taking it, and 3 days later, complete 180 turnaround. Right.
That's interesting. Were you in ketosis when you took it, or were you low carb? Were you doing the Tim Ferriss diet that you sent in your email, the no carb diet, or what's it called? Slow carb, right?
The slow carb, yeah. So I tend to eat low carb most of the time. The slow carb diet is essentially just no white refined carbs, so no sugars, starches, potatoes, that sort of thing. But you're still getting carbs, I guess, in a lower GI. So it's like legumes or vegetables, that sort of thing is fine.
Yeah, and you were doing that diet when you took the metformin.
Yeah. It's funny because looking back, after I ate a meal, I definitely had less anxiety.
Right. That's interesting, man. Yeah, that gene, I mean, not a lot is understood about the mechanism, but yeah, it's an interesting. I mean, do you need a prescription over there to get it?
Yeah, you do.
Okay.
We can. We got rules over here that you can kind of order things, from the internet.
Sure. Right.
And if it's for personal use, it's kind of okay.
Right. Yeah, it should be like that, in my opinion. But
I mean, I'll probably get myself in trouble saying that, but I don't know. Yeah, I didn't get it through legitimate sources.
It's similar over here. Well, the reason I ask is there's countries that definitely just have it over the counter. You can just go and buy it, but it's harder to find it that way. And then there's always the question of purity and things like that.
Yeah. You mentioned another drug in there, I guess, that serves a similar purpose for lifespan. It's called epithalon.
Epithalon, yeah, that's a peptide. Yeah.
Can you tell me about what that is?
Oh yeah, so that particular gene is called TERC, T-E-R-C, and the version you have effectively shortens your telomeres. That's the idea. So, longer telomeres is associated with longer lifespan.
Right.
And telomeres, as you know, they're kind of like the end caps on your DNA. It's like those little plastic caps on shoelaces at the ends of the shoelaces.
Right.
And your DNA has something similar. So as you age, your DNA literally gets shorter, and yours tends to get even shorter than most people. Again, not something you want, right?
Right.
And that particular peptide, TERC or epithalon, in Russia they call it epitalon. It extends your telomeres. It's phenomenal. It's like you just do a few doses every 6 months, and it's literally banned by the Olympic Association, like WADA, because it's so powerful. It basically makes your cells younger, so you increase endurance and things like that.
If it's banned, it must be good.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, that's an issue in terms of trying to get a hold of it, because it's like testosterone, where they regulate it really careful, because you could potentially buy it and then sell it to some athlete or something like that.
Right.
But that's the only solution that I know that's really powerful for that particular gene. So, and of course with that one, you kind of have to really do a lot of research on the side in terms of how to, it's not a pill. You have to inject it.
Yeah, right.
So that's the thing. Peptides
takes a little extra.
Your stomach. Yeah, your stomach acid would destroy. But it's, the trick is, if you've got peptides, they usually sell them as powder, as dry powder. It's called lyophilized, peptides, and then you have to put water in there. But when you do that, you don't want to just blast a bunch of. You have to get this special bacteriostatic water, which is obviously has no bacteria, and you can't just blast it in there with a syringe. You got to drip it in really slow, because otherwise you get air bubbles, and air bubbles will destroy peptides. So you also don't want to shake it, you don't want to pick it up and just give it a good shake.
Right, so it needs to dissolve in the bacteriostatic water really slowly.
Exactly. So you just pick it up and roll it in your fingers. There's some tricks, right? It's not all just obvious information. But I've seen people just transform their lifespan measured by telomere tests,
Yeah.
Like if you take a telomere test, it gives you there's a difference between your chronological age and your biological age, as you probably know.
Yep.
Like you might be, what's your age again? 32 or something?
Yes.
Yeah, like you might be 32 chronologically, but then your biological age might be 40,
Yeah.
And then you do this epithalon, and then it drops down to 20. It's pretty phenomenal like that. Wow. But just because you're super healthy in terms of your supplements and your diet, your biohacking, all this, you might be 25 already, in which case, honestly, it's probably not worth it.
Right.
But when you're 60 or 70 or whatever, it's probably worth it.
Might be worth a touch-up then.
Exactly. Yep. So I'd probably wait, but I'd keep it in your back pocket, particularly because these peptides are pretty new, and they're gonna become more and more mainstream at some point, because they are so powerful. They can't be ignored forever. The problem is they're injectable, so that's why they're not mainstream already. If it was a pill, they'd be mainstream.
Yeah, right. So I guess that's something that will be developed as time goes on.
Right. Especially
if it's so promising.
Yeah, epithalon's one of my favorite. It's amazing. But again, awesome. Only when you have this gene, and it's not that common of a gene. And then the next one on the lifespan section is called TP53. That's a gene involved in cell cycle and cell division, especially with your stem cells. And cells aren't immortal, right? They can only divide so many times. And, your stem cells are just dying off a little bit quicker than they should be. Again, at your age, probably not an issue, but as you age, you're more likely to have less stem cells than somebody else.
Yeah.
So you want to focus on like bumping up your stem cells. One of the best supplements for that is retinol, like liver. Yeah, I mean, you can get it from a pill. It's hard to find. Most of the time when you buy vitamin A, it's not the actual version your body uses. It's actually carotene in the vitamin A pills.
So I want to get it as like a liver.
Exactly. It's better
and
to
like
get
a desiccated liver. I've seen those before.
Yeah, you can do that as a pill or just eat liver. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I tried eating liver. It's tough.
I know. Well, I did too, and I had it once, and then I never had it for like 10 years, and then my wife made liver pate with bacon with a food processor.
Dang.
And it basically just tastes like bacon spread.
Oh my god. Okay. Yeah.
It's amazing.
See, liver pate I can do.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. My kids munch it. Like my kids will clean out the bowl. I'll make a big old thing of it.
Wow.
And I get some rice crackers from Trader Joe's in America, and my kids will just go to town on it.
So with cooked bacon, or?
Yeah, you cook it first, and then put it in the food processor, and it turns out, I mean, there's little bacon chunks in there, but for the most part, it's creamy consistency. Yeah.
And the liver that you're putting in this recipe, though, is that also fresh and cooked, or is it already?
It's cooked. Yep.
Yeah. And it's just blended in the same way.
Yep. And add a little rosemary in there. I would just look it up online. There's a ton of good recipes, and they're pretty much all the same as far as I know.
I'm totally doing that.
Yeah, that's my favorite way to get retinol. Now, I know you're a biohacker.
Mm.
If you really want to boost your stem cells, and this is something you can do throughout your life, hyperbaric oxygen is phenomenal.
Okay.
I mean, most people that don't even recognize that. There's human studies, and let me just try and find. I gave a talk for the keto conference, KetoCon it's called.
Oh yeah.
And they wanted me to talk on stem cells because I actually researched stem cells. And I'm just going to pull up my slide here because I want to get the numbers straight. But I mean, as you age, so like a newborn baby, 1 in every 10,000 cells is a stem cell. All right, so that's a lot. There's a lot of stem cells in their body. But then by the time you're 80 years old, 1 in every 2 million cells is a stem cell. So in other words, it just declines and declines. Even at age 30. So again, newborn, 1 in every 10,000. By age 30, 1 in every 250,000.
Wow. That's a phenomenal difference.
Right. And the thing that was most interesting, I mean, sunshine increases stem cells, retinol, like I mentioned there, oxytocin. But one of the most interesting in terms of just bang for your buck is hyperbaric oxygen, because a 2-hour treatment with hyperbaric in a hyperbaric chamber, it doubles your stem cell numbers. This is a human study. It's not like, we did this in mice.
2 hours.
Yeah. So basically just take a nap in a hyperbaric chamber at a facility and you come out with double the stem cells.
And how long is that? I mean, I guess maybe you don't know, but how long does it last?
Well, you do a 2-hour... how long did the stem cells stay in your body? Yeah, I don't know that. But I do know they did 20 treatments with people. And after 20, so they measured one single 2-hour, and then they did a 20 treatment session. So over the course of like a year. And those people had 8 times more stem cells. So it's not like it plateaus right away. It just keeps going up.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was the biggest, that was the most popular slide when I gave the talk. I got more emails about that slide. Like, send me this study, right? Because it was hard to believe. And the study's really clear. It's not, like I said,
it's
not
human too.
Exactly. Yeah.
Amazing. Wow, man. I got to look up whether they have any of them down here. Right.
I'm sure they do. And you can even buy them yourself, at some point if you're really interested. But it's tricky because they have it's oxygen. You have these oxygen tanks, and if you just turn those on and light a lighter, like light a cigarette or something, to blow up your house.
You're not gonna have a good time doing that. Yeah.
So it's not something that they want people to just have in their houses, but you can. I know people that have these things. Dr. Joseph Mercola actually he has a great podcast on hyperbaric chambers. Just all the details, like all the specifications, and here's how much pressure you want and all this kind of stuff.
Wow. What was his name? Joseph?
Mercola, Mercola.
Cool. I'm making so many notes here.
Oh, he's good. Yeah, it's one of my favorite podcasts with him.
I'm curious, man, if NAD, nicotinamide riboside, nicotinamide mononucleotide, whether any of these assists with the stem cell boosting.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I think that's one of the big benefits from them. The thing is, if you take it just as a pill, your stomach acid generally destroys it. But,
okay.
But I mean, are you taking NMN or some?
I'm taking NR.
Okay, right. Yeah, so that should be good. I mean, I haven't had great luck with the supplement versions of those, but the injections are phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
In my opinion. But then you're back to injection. It's like an IV infusion,
Right. Yeah. See, I heard about this, and I immediately went and got the pills. Mm-hmm. And I just bought like 3 months supply.
Yeah.
And
do you notice anything?
Yeah. See, I started and I really didn't notice anything, but then after about 3 or 4 weeks, I just like had this, I guess, like non-stimulatory energy. Like when I'd get home from a long day at the office, I could just keep going and do the things that I wanted to do. Like it was a mental energy.
Yeah.
And
it's a good.
So I didn't stop, and I kept going, and I feel like it's.
Right.
I feel like it was a bit of it's a secret weapon. Like I feel like I'm walking around with a special weapon that other people don't have.
Right. Oh yeah.
Everyone else is down in the dumps and low energy, and they're not kicking goals, and I feel like I can power through that so much more than the average, especially my age.
It's good to hear, man. That's like the best testimonial from a company perspective. It's like, oh, you got to go on it for a long time before you notice anything.
Well, yeah, it's true. I mean, it took a month before I really felt different.
Yeah. That's interesting.
And I did. I went off of it for 6 weeks, and I ran just a N=1 study, and I put it on my blog about a bunch of different tests that I took. Obviously anything that I can test at home I did. Blood pressure and aortic pulse and all sorts of shit. Oh, maybe I shouldn't say that.
No worries. It doesn't matter to me.
All sorts of stuff I tested, and I was
testing your shit.
Yeah, I was testing. No, I wasn't testing my shit actually. But I did test testosterone and that sort of thing as well, and deep sleep and all these different components of sleep. Right. And I found, beneficial boosts, by 10-15% in essentially
That's awesome.
A lot of these.
It's good to hear. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me because, the science is really clear. It's just a question of the pills versus the infusion. And I know the infusion is pretty immediate, so there's always that. You can feel it.
Right.
But yeah, that's good to know. That's interesting.
But yeah, just to clarify, I went off of it for 6 weeks, measured a baseline, and then I reintroduced and measured the increase.
Wow.
So I was like somewhat scientific, as scientific as an individual can be.
Is it like sublingual where you just put it under your tongue, or is it a pill you just swallow?
Yeah, I was doing NR 500 milligrams, so that was just, I think I took it once a day, 500 milligrams.
Like a pill?
Yep.
Because they sell them as sublinguals as well, where you just put them under your tongue until it dissolves.
Yeah, I did get that one as well, and I plan to do a further test to see if that's any different. But I don't know. I feel like at a certain point you stick with what works.
Right. Oh yeah. Well, should we switch to the diet section?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, you got such good genes in the brain section. I'd be shocked if Alzheimer's runs in your family, for example.
Oh yeah?
You just don't have the Alzheimer's genes and things.
Yeah. I mean, no one in my immediate family, mother or father's side, that I know of has any ailment like that.
Yeah, doesn't spread. But of course, when you hit the diet section, it lights up a little bit more.
Yeah.
Starting with dairy. So I'm assuming you're sensitive to dairy.
Yeah, like I feel like it makes me a little bit lethargic.
Right. I mean, I'd be careful with it because, again, when you have
delicious.
2++. I mean, the way I would approach it, you're going to get inflammation from dairy, and except the fats. Most likely the fats they're going to be fine, whereas the casein in the dairy and the lactose in the dairy are going to cause inflammation. It's pretty much that simple.
Right.
if you don't notice anything, you can probably get away with more than most people, but with these genes, but I'd still avoid it, to be honest. Butter is fine. Cream, 100% whipping cream, things like that. Just look on the label, and if it's 0 protein, 0 carbs on the label, and it's a dairy product like whipping cream, it's fine.
Yep.
But other than that, I'd be really careful, especially as you age. You'll notice it more and more because that's how these things work.
Yeah, right. I have heard that you can kind of develop these intolerances as you age.
Yeah, because your metabolism kind of starts to slow down and things. You just get more sensitive to your genetic issues with age.
Right.
And type 1 diabetes runs in your family. And this gene, to have 2++ on this gene, not that common, to be honest. It doesn't mean you're for sure going to get it. It doesn't even mean your family members have it, because it's pretty rare to get it. But but people that do get it, they generally have this gene. So
Right.
I'm glad you're doing low carb. Sometimes people have quote unquote type 2 diabetes, but it's actually type 1. They don't even realize it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying you do, because you're doing low carb. You probably, what's your blood sugar? Like less than 5 millimolars?
You know what? I don't have the numbers in front.
Do you guys measure in millimolar, or do you measure in milligrams or deciliter?
I think it's the other one. 'Cause
Like
all
85?
the literature that I see is the opposite of what we have.
Right.
So I guess a lot of it's done in the US. But I did, one doctor was like that my fasting was a little high.
Mm-hmm.
So that is interesting.
Yeah, even with low carb, it's, again, it's going to be a little bit more of a battle with some of these genes, because you got the type 1 genes, and then you've got some type 2 genes down below, especially that MC4R, right? That one lights up a lot. You've got 3++ there. And that gene, speaking of peptides, right? Again, because you're a biohacker, that gene is actually, you can stimulate that gene with melanotan. I don't know if you've heard of that peptide.
No, what's that?
Oh, it's an injectable peptide. Your body makes it, right? So like when you go out in the sun, your body makes some melanotan, and then it stimulates your melanocytes to make more melanin, so you get tan, right? And you can inject it and get yourself tan without going in the sun.
Oh, I've heard of this.
Yeah, they call it like female Viagra as well, because there's a piece of melanotan. It's called PT141. It's like a little fragment of it. If you cut that fragment off and just inject that fragment, PT141, like I say, it's like for some reason it's like female Viagra, which is kind of a funny term for it, but that's another benefit,
Wow.
So people always talk about vitamin D with the sunshine, but they never talk about sex drive, right?
Right, yeah.
And they definitely don't talk about your hormones and your body weight, your set point for your body weight, which is what this gene is involved in. And so sunshine helps in terms of your metabolism. Intermittent fasting also helps this gene. And again, so does injecting melanotan, which is the most extreme thing to do, but I just wanted to throw it in there because, again, if you do get into peptides, it's interesting to tinker with that one.
Melanotan, yeah.
Yep, it's particularly melanotan 2. Number 2 on the end, melanotan 2 is the best one.
Okay. For the MC4R. For those, I find it strange because my immediate family and my sister and my father, I guess we've all individually kind of tended to find a lower carb or a restricted window of eating in our personal lives.
Wow.
So it must be because we intuitively know something's going on there.
Right. It's huge. I mean, I'm glad to hear, because at least in America, you almost never hear that.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible to go low carb
I've
here.
skipped breakfast for a lot of my adult life anyway. It's just so I feel better. I never feel hungry in the morning. And,
Right.
I'd rather just a black coffee and keep going till early lunch. So that feeding time specific gene, the MC4R, you said can be mitigated with that melanotan 2, can be mitigated with a
sunshine.
Sunshine was the third one. That was the one.
Yep.
Cool.
So, I mean, that's similar to melanotan, right?
Yep.
Like sunshine is the natural way to increase melanotan.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big one for you, just because you have so many pluses there. And similar with adiponectin, you make less adiponectin, so you want to bump that up a little bit. That one's easy. That's really common. And so intermittent fasting, again, the best way to increase that particular hormone, adiponectin, helps you burn fat. That hormone helps you burn fat, so you want to bump that one up.
I'm a cold showerer.
Oh, there you go.
Like,
That's the other thing. Yep.
So I've heard that'll boost stem cells, which you mentioned before.
Right. It's hard. Cold showers are tough though, because you got to do it for quite a while to get the full benefits. But if you can handle it,
the duration, it can be challenging. I tend to do 1 to 2 minutes at the end of a warm shower.
Yep.
And I find that it's bearable.
Yeah, what's cool about that, I do that too sometimes, and I've done it for stretches of time. What's cool is the first day you do it, it's just misery. You can do it for literally like 10 seconds. And here in Minnesota where I live, the water's really cold, like coming out of the faucet. But then the next day it gets a little bit easier. It's like 20 seconds. And then like, I don't know, 3 or 4 days into it, it's amazing how fast you adapt.
Wow, yeah.
There's a quick adaptation. I think swimming is the best. If you can swim in the really cold water, that's even better.
If you got like a river or lake nearby.
Right.
I kind of find it comes in waves. Like I'll turn the tap to full cold, and then initially it'll be kind of shocking, but after about 20 to 30 seconds, there'll be like a peacefulness that comes with it. But then after a further minute, it starts to get hard again for 30 seconds or so, and then if you pass that section, it again becomes peaceful. It kind of goes in these waves, these ebbs and flows of extreme discomfort and kind of peace.
Sure. Man, sounds hardcore.
Yeah, well.
And
it's got a lot of benefits, right?
Well, yeah. It's heart palpitations. Have you ever had those? Like irregular heartbeats? No?
Maybe with too much caffeine.
Yeah, well, you usually would know. I mean, it's good. I'm glad you didn't. You haven't. You've probably never been vegan, or have you ever tried vegan?
Yeah, 6 months.
Oh,
6
man.
months of my life.
Wow. And how did that go?
I don't know. I didn't feel great. I didn't really notice that I felt terrible on it. But ultimately, it just doesn't work for me.
Sure. Well,
I started to feel weaker.
Oh yeah, weaker. Well, I was gonna say the gene is most concerning probably for a vegan diet in your case, because it's a creatine kinase regulator, and creatine is super important. And so, in other words, I mean, you can get creatine if you're vegan, certainly. I mean, you can supplement it if you're vegan or if you're not a vegan. But if you were going to do a vegan for a really long term, I would suggest supplementing creatine for sure. But otherwise, you probably get plenty of creatine from red meat if you're eating meat. And then if you do get heart palpitations, I would also add taurine as a supplement. That's another good one for your heart.
Yeah, I supplement with creatine every time I have a protein shake anywhere.
Oh, okay.
Chuck
Oh, there
5
you go.
grams of that in.
Did you do that when you were vegan?
No.
You got lucky, man. I can't tell you how many people I've talked to that have had heart palpitations with this gene. Again, it helps that you're only 30. If you were 50 and then you tried vegan, you'd be a lot more sensitive to the heart palpitations. They're not life-threatening or anything, so it's not that big of an issue, but it's not fun either,
I'll put it at the bottom of the list of 100 other reasons on why not to be vegan.
Yeah. And in terms of heart disease, you're pretty good. I mean, that LPL gene, keep your triglycerides low.
Yeah.
You might have to do some online conversion for the units, because I'm putting the American units there. And obviously you're probably using different units when you check your blood work, but just make sure they're in that range. That's pretty simple.
I think we do use mg over DL.
Oh, milligrams per deciliter. Okay, good. And then the heart disease risk with that CDK gene, that one's worth talking about, because that's a twofold higher. It's called CDKN2B, right? Yeah. And that's a twofold higher risk of heart disease, and it's related to CDK inflammation. It's a form of inflammation that nobody talks about. As you know, like if you damage your arteries, your body has to repair it. Yeah. And generally, you repair it with cholesterol. So everybody blames cholesterol with heart disease, but in reality, it's usually something before the cholesterol got there.
Yeah, this is so interesting. I read that book, Great Cholesterol Con or something, and kind of explains that, if you're stressed or you're inflamed, then you've got something wrong with your artery, and it gets plugged up with cholesterol, which is just trying to repair it.
Exactly. So everybody blames cholesterol for something that happened before before that.
Yeah.
And in this case, what's cool about CDK, I always just explain it like hot water. It's like you've got your hot water turned on too hot, your inflammation's too high with this gene. But the good news is this gene, CDKN2B, it shuts off that hot water. It turns down that inflammation, but you have a plus on this gene, so yours doesn't turn down that hot water as much as it should. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yep.
But what's cool is grapeseed extract, grapeseed proanthocyanidins in particular, they inhibit CDK. So they shut off that hot water for you.
Oh, I actually take that as a sup, I think.
Yeah, you take it, right? I saw that on your list.
Yep.
So definitely keep taking that one.
Okay.
And you can even get more, like grapeseed extract is what you said on your email. I mean, that usually includes resveratrol and proanthocyanidins, which is fine. But I usually just get the straight proanthocyanidins because, as you know,
Right.
like if you take too much resveratrol, it starts acting like estrogen in your body, and that's unnecessary.
Yeah, I was when I read your What I Use page on your website,
Right.
I came across that note on resveratrol, and I immediately I have a big tub of it that I add to my protein shake.
Oh,
as well.
man.
I immediately cut that out. So.
Right. I would just cycle it, I would just take it once a week or something until it's gone, just to use it up so you don't waste the money. But yeah, in the future I would get proanthocyanidin, especially because you have a leaky gut gene that's really similar. You probably see it down there. It's at the top of the list there.
Yeah, the grapeseed's beneficial for both of those, so I've got to keep taking that.
Yep, it's good for your gut lining, it's good for your arteries. And then in between the gut section and the heart disease section, you got that CRP gene. It's called interleukin 6, IL-6. Have you heard of, like with the COVID, people talk about the cytokine storm?
I haven't heard of that. No.
It's like when after you get COVID-19, you get this massive cytokine storm, which basically just means you get a lot of inflammation.
Right.
This is one of those cytokines, It's like one of the forms of inflammation.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different forms of inflammation, but interleukin 6, when that goes up, and again, you have a plus that oftentimes makes it go up, but when that goes up, your CRP also goes up, and that's easily measured, Sometimes they measure interleukin 6 with a blood test, but usually they don't. Usually they measure CRP.
Yeah.
So it's worth just checking your CRP and just making sure. If it's high, there's a bunch of suggestions there, like DHA and things like that.
CRP generally is what you said.
It's a marker for inflammation. Yeah, you don't want to be high. Yeah, you don't want to be above 1 milligram per liter.
Yep.
Because it's a sign that you're too inflamed. You have too much inflammation.
Right.
And you're probably fine.
Yep.
Usually if you're just eating healthy and exercising, you're fine there. Even with a plus gene, I mean, that's the secret, just eat healthy, exercise. But not everybody does that. And of course, even when you're doing that, sometimes it still creeps up with this gene. It just makes it a little bit harder,
Yeah, wow.
And the gut section's not that bad, right? The 1 besides that CDK is CNR1, which is your cannabinoid receptor. I mean, you certainly have some plus minuses here, but and you can read through those, but the cannabinoid receptor, the version that you have gives you a risk for gut issues, and generally the solution for that is just to take CBD. It's your CBD receptor. Take CBD, usually it helps. I don't take it. I wouldn't take it every day. I would just take it if you have issues.
Right.
So maybe have some on hand and make sure it's good quality.
I do. I've got some really great stuff.
Nice. So that's actually pretty good compared to a lot of people. There's a ton of genes in that section that you could have, and some people light up like crazy in that section. Like they've got 10 pluses,
So what is leaky gut?
That's when your gut lining is, so your gut, it's like a mesh, right? Like food particles you don't want food particles to go into your bloodstream. You want them to be broken down into individual building blocks like amino acids or just sugar instead of complicated carbs, branched chain carbs. And you don't want big, huge proteins to go in. You just want the amino acids. You don't want giant triglycerides to go in. Usually you want to break them up into individual fatty acids, things like that. And if you've got a leaky gut, the lining of your gut is it's more like a basketball hoop or something with the mesh. It's just bigger food particles go in. They go in your blood and in your immune system. Like say you're eating an egg, right? Well, you've got a protein in there called ovalbumin, and your body doesn't make ovalbumin. So when ovalbumin goes through your gut lining and into your blood, your immune system's like, hey, what the hell is this? Like, I don't recognize this protein, and it literally attacks it.
Yeah, right.
Because it's a foreign invader. It perceives that ovalbumin as a foreign invader. So it actually triggers an immune response, which is a form of chronic inflammation. If you're doing that all the time, it's chronic inflammation. Tough on your arteries and things like that. So again, it's not going to happen all the time, but if you usually can feel it. You'll feel the gut issues. And my favorite way to measure it is just to get on a foam roller and roll your abs, and you'll feel it way down deep in there if you have issues. Wow. Some people hopefully you don't feel anything.
Just rock hard abs.
Yeah, hopefully you just feel like a washboard. but yeah, you might feel like some deep pain way back in there.
Yeah. Wow.
At least if you cheat, like if you have a bunch of dairy in your case, right? Then you probably would.
Yeah, wow. That's so interesting. So,
yeah, and for
CBD
me,
will help with that too.
CBD really works. So you got to take a lot. Like I have to take, like 20 milligrams or 30 milligrams to really fix issues that I have. But when I do have an issue, it is pretty powerful.
Yeah, right.
Because I have that same gene.
Yeah, a lot of the CBD oils you get are pretty low milligrams.
Right. And they're not very well tested by third parties, so it's really sketchy.
Yeah, right on.
But yeah, the one I have on my website's really good, and it sounds like you've got a good one. You just need to do a little research. It's not that hard to find good ones.
Yeah, it's like questionable over here with the legality, and it's pretty annoying. They're kind of loosening things up now, but it's hard to get a good range of brands to kind of choose from.
Right.
But I'll have to check out the one you have as well.
Yeah, I have two on my website. It's funny, in America, the military still does not allow CBD. Like, it's illegal within the military, which is absurd. It's so ridiculous. Like, you don't get high on CBD. I think the reason it's illegal in the military is because THC is also illegal, and it's hard. Sometimes if you take a lot of CBD, you'll trigger the THC test. It looks like you're smoking weed.
Yep.
On the blood test. So they want to just make sure that they can check everybody.
Yeah, that's what happened with me. No, not really.
It happens. I
was just smoking weed.
Oh, yeah. Well, it does happen, and that's what people are always worried about. It's like, well, I've got this job as a whatever, right? And they check my urine all the time, and I can't risk it. And that's a legitimate thing. But anyways,
sure.
So we switch to the vitamin hormone detox section?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because you do have a plus on the vitamin D on one of those genes, and a couple plus minuses there to add on top of that.
Yes. So I've been taking supplementary vitamin D for a long time now,
Yeah.
just because I heard that it's beneficial for optimizing test levels, just testosterone levels.
Right.
I don't know if that's true or not, but I take, I think, 3 or 4,000.
Right. And do you know your blood test or your blood levels?
Yeah, I got it here. Just let me 1 second.
Yeah, again, the units might be different.
Yeah, so my last test was a year ago, though, which was 66 nanomoles per liter.
Good. Right. Yeah, that's perfect. I mean, as long as you're above 50. Oh, did you say nanomoles?
Yeah, nmol.
Oh, okay. Let me just check that. So vitamin D conversion, nanomoles to nanograms, because I usually measure in nanograms.
Okay.
That's,
see, it was at 54.
Yep.
And then I started supplementing. So that was in 2017. And then I started supplementing about 2 years later, retested it. It was 66.
So it's nanomoles per liter. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
66?
Yes.
Okay. So that's 24 nanograms per mil, and I want to see above 50.
Wow, okay.
So you gotta
it's still quite low.
I'd probably take 10,000.
Okay.
Just to make sure that you get above 50. Again, the units are a little confusing because, usually when I hear 66, that's excellent. But
is there actually a central resource that you'd recommend to convert this?
No, I just Google it every time.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
The thing is, you can't, like, because the molecular weight of vitamin D is different than triglycerides, is different than testosterone, is different than estrogen, etc. You have to look up the specific thing. Like for every blood thing you're checking, like if I was checking testosterone, you have to type in testosterone online or free conversion, unit conversion or something. You have to type in something like that.
Right.
And it's easy enough. It's,
well, first things first, I'm going to go and get that retested because my last test was a year ago. So
right.
I'm curious to see what's changed.
Exactly. That's smart. Yeah, you don't want to take too much. But they've done studies on hunter-gathering tribes, and everybody in the tribe. So first of all, the average American is 30. Again, with nanograms per mil, like the American units, but 30, right? And if you get a 30 when you go to the doctor, they'll tell you that you're good. So in your case, you're at what I say, 26. If you went in and got your blood checked in America, they'd say, oh yeah, you're great. But the average person in those everybody in that tribe, they were between 70 and 100.
Yeah.
And I've looked at and that's nanograms per mil, and I've looked at the blood tests myself. It's like, clearly 30 is not optimized,
Yeah, so it's probably another. I read in your book, Estrogen, the rates of testosterone, they become an estrogen kind of. They get normalized as society has, has
like
lowered their levels.
Tests.
It's almost like a historically low testosterone level might be in the normal range now because all of society's diminished. So I guess it's something similar with vitamin D there.
Yep, that's exactly right. And they're doing that with a lot of other things on blood tests. It's insane. It's like, because Americans are so unhealthy, we're changing the normal range down. But in my opinion, as long as you're above 50, you're good, because usually when you start getting below 50, that's when you start seeing associations with all kinds of different health problems. And there's a million different health problems. And then the doctors will generally say, when you talk to people about this, they'll say, well, they're just associations. And it's like, yeah, but they're associations. It's better to not have associations. Like, you might as well get it about 50. Like, it's not that hard to get it about 50. So that's my take on it. It's like, yeah, you can debate about the numbers and how significant they are and whatnot, but I would just get it.
What about that recent study that I read an article about it, and I'm not a scholar, so correct me if I'm wrong, but that showed that the supplementing of vitamin D had little to no effect on the actual serum?
No, well, it depends on the person, but it definitely bumps it up. That's crazy.
Okay, good.
Like if you take 50,000, you'll go way over 100. And the problem with doing that, like, you don't want to go over 100. That's the caveat. And again, every time I say these numbers, these are all American units, but you don't want to go over 100 because there's a risk for calcium and calcifying your arteries, basically making your arteries stiff. Mm-hmm. So, and it will, like, trust me, people that do the 50,000 a day for like a bunch of days, they shoot right up to over 100 really quick. So
interesting.
Yeah. It's a complicated topic. I mean, what they were probably arguing in that article you read, there's something called calcitriol, or calcitriol, some people pronounce it, and then there's cholecalciferol. So like when you take vitamin D3, it's actually cholecalciferol, right?
Yeah.
And your body doesn't really use cholecalciferol. You still have to convert it to calcitriol for your body to use it. That's what that CYP2R1 gene does, and that's the plus you have.
Right.
And so if you're taking D3, people say, oh, that's the active form, that's the good stuff. And that's kind of true, but it's not really, because you still have to convert it to calcitriol or calcitriol.
Right.
And you don't do that as well. So not only should you be in the optimal range, you should be a little bit high, because when you've got D3 and you're not converting enough of it to the calcitriol, well, then you want more D3 because you'll convert more. There's no way to supplement calcitriol. You can't buy it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I wish you could, because if you'd be a good candidate for taking calcitriol.
Yeah.
But it's really expensive to make, so they don't. You can buy it in a research setting. Like, I can buy it for the Mayo Clinic, but it would be like hundreds of dollars for like a little tiny thing of it.
Yeah. So I want to have essentially an oversupply of the first compound so that it converts.
Exactly. You want to be on the higher.
Even if it's converting at a reduced efficiency to the other one.
Exactly. Yep. So not only do you want to be 50, maybe you want to be 60 or 70, to be honest. And right now you're 26. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And it'll go up. Trust me. Like I say, and it might even be it might even be 50 right now because you've been supplementing consistently. But definitely worth keeping tabs on.
Good, I will.
Yeah, and then estrogen is the next one that comes up.
Yes.
With ESR1. And to be honest, you have a pretty clean estrogen slate. Most people have a lot more genes in this section because it's just like the gut section where there's potentially a ton of genes here. You know what I mean? And you've only got 1++. And that gene is your estrogen receptor. It's the alpha receptor. And so there's two estrogen receptors. There's estrogen receptor alpha and estrogen receptor beta. And the beta receptor is protective in men for prostate cancer. It's protective for women for breast cancer, things like that. It's really good. The alpha receptor is the opposite. That one's associated with higher breast cancer. So it's like you don't want to be triggering your alpha receptor.
Right.
And this gene, the reason it's a plus is it makes more alpha receptor. So you tend to have more receptor, which isn't good, right? Because that can lead to more estrogen problems.
Right.
And that's why I'm not a fan of you taking resveratrol, because you're making more receptor, so you're more sensitive to the estrogen that's there. It doesn't lead to higher levels in your blood. It just means you're more sensitive to it.
Right. Okay.
But it's not, like I say, it could be a lot worse. You could have a ton of genes in this section. A lot of people do. It's not that bad. So
yeah, right.
You can definitely cycle in some resveratrol.
I like the recommendations in this section.
Yeah,
particularly because I tend to eat broccoli and cauliflower for lunch and for dinner. And then I also love the sauna. I absolutely love it.
Right. It's huge. Yeah. And then the thyroid, the 1++ you have it's related to T4 to T3 conversion. Thyroid hormones are really annoying because they give them these weird labels. Like usually you'd think like T1 would get converted to T2 and then that would get converted to T3, right? But instead, it's actually T4 gets converted down to T3. So the labels they've given these things are really confusing.
Yeah.
And you have reduced conversion of T4 to T3.
Okay.
So if you get on some thyroid optimization down the road, don't take Synthroid or some version of just T4 because you're not going to convert it to T3 and it'll just plug up your system more or less,
Interesting. Right. Yeah.
So I'd be cautious with that. And then a lot of doctors do that. They'll give people Synthroid. And again, it works fine for a lot of people, but for you, definitely don't do that. And in general, just supplement iodine and you're fine. Especially because you have heart palpitation risk. A lot of times when you have that risk gene that you have, if you take thyroid hormones, you'll suddenly get heart palpitations. And in really extreme cases, if you take way too much, you'll get permanent AFib. Like your heartbeat will permanently get disrupted, which is a real problem. But again, that would be like a bodybuilder trying to overdose. Yeah, you don't want to overdose.
The fact that we ever did medicine without this sort of thing is going to be wild in the future.
Right.
It's going to be like, what? You
were just guessing?
Right. Yeah, you were just guessing. Wow.
Yeah, I agree. So, yeah, and I'm a fan of thyroid optimization. Obviously, you need a prescription for that exact reason, for the heartbeat stuff. Because the doctors don't want people to overdose it, which is smart. But again, be careful in your case. Just generally supplement some iodine once in a while, or eat a lot of seafood,
Okay.
Because iodine's a building block for the thyroid hormones.
Okay.
So retinol comes up again in a couple plus minuses, so take note of that. Cannabis comes up with that COMT gene, not necessarily a major health problem, but it would just lead to a lot less dopamine than normal if you're smoking weed, which means you're going to be super demotivated.
Right on. Okay. Yeah, I tend to not smoke it at all, really. I've done it a few times in my life, and if it's going around at a party or something.
Right.
But I'm very very much stick clear of it. I've never felt good on it.
Right. Well, and then MTHFR, you've heard of that one, right?
What's that one?
In the B9 section. Well, there's a gene called MTHFR. A lot of people talk about it, even Tim Ferriss.
Oh yeah.
Because it causes a lot of health issues. It's like one of these genes that just, even as a plus minus, it seems to cause a lot of health issues. And at least the version you've got the MTHFR C677T. And again, it's plus minus, so it's not as bad. Like the plus on that one gives you a 70% less efficiency processing folic acid, and this one gives you about a 35% less efficiency because it's a plus minus.
Wow.
But it seems pretty consistent, you know, like they've done enough studies on this one to know the numbers like that, which is useful. But the key for this gene is just to avoid folic acid, avoid the fake stuff, and take the real. If you're going to take any kind of B9, take methylfolate. It's that simple.
Okay.
And to be honest, you get methylfolate from greens, like leafy greens, like spinach and things like that. That's actually where they discovered methylfolate. So you can just, you know, just eat leafy greens consistently and you're fine. But if you don't eat leafy greens consistently, take some 5-MTHF, take methylfolate.
Okay.
Like I say, even as a plus minus, that one's worth doing because it improves your sleep. It's a DNA precursor, right? It's a DNA building block, methylfolate.
I'm putting this on the list.
Yeah, so you want to
next to retinol and high levels of vitamin D.
Right. Yeah, you want to have the building blocks to make DNA when you're sleeping in particular. A lot of people notice improved sleep with this supplement because, like, look on Amazon. If you go to 5-MTHF on Amazon and you look up the reviews, 80% of them are like, "Oh, I massively improved my sleep," you know. And then a lot of the other ones are like, "My depression went away," and that's because they improved their sleep.
Yeah. Wow.
Right.
Fascinating.
Yeah, so that's a big supplement. And B12, I'd add that one too, because B12, in your case, you have pretty low uptake in your gut, which goes back to the importance of eating meat. Usually if you're eating meat, you're fine here. But if you're a vegan, you definitely would want to supplement B12. That's probably why you didn't feel great.
Yeah.
That and maybe, like I say, creatine. If you were going to do vegan, you'd probably be fine if you did that. But
I mean,
no need
just to clarify, when I was on vegan, I wasn't, you know, taking any notice of what I was eating. I was like, I was looking at a packet of Oreos and that's vegan, so I can eat them, right?
Right.
It's like the only tick box for nutrition was, is it vegan or not?
Right. That's what a lot of people do. That's the problem, right? Like a lot of people do that. That's the problem, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like that with the gluten-free. It's like, oh, these gluten-free cookies.
Yeah.
They must be healthy.
And it's just potato starch.
And then, yeah, did you have any questions on that?
No, I eat a lot of meat as it is, at least once a day.
Right. So you should be fine. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I should be fine. But I have the supplement in the, you know, sublingual in the
sure.
cupboard
as
well.
Yeah, I find people that supplement it and eat a lot of meat, they usually are super high on their blood tests, which is not a problem. It's just an extra financial thing. So I would probably just ditch it if you're eating a lot of meat.
Yep.
But you can take it too. I don't have an issue. The final gene here, PNPLA3, that's it's a fructose related gene because your liver wants to store fructose as fat instead of burn it as energy. So you don't want a lot of fructose.
Right.
And soda is the killer, right? Like people that are drinking soda, that's where you really have issues here because of the high fructose corn syrup. But I also linked my website there because I have a list of fruits that are high in fructose and fruits that are low in fructose, because like figs are outrageously high in fructose, for example, but there's a lot of other fruits like blueberries you wouldn't expect. They're pretty low in fructose, you know?
We have, in Australia, we don't have the huge amount of high fructose corn syrup that you guys have in the States.
Right. Nowhere else does.
Yeah, pretty much nowhere else does. So I guess, I mean, we, you know, like in our soft drinks and stuff, a lot of the time we'll use sugar, which is, sucrose,
it's
right?
50-50. Yeah, it's 50% glucose, 50% fructose. Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, for me, it's only on the cheat day. Once a week that I'm having one of those. Yeah, man. What I did yesterday, I was feeling a soda yesterday. And so most of the time I don't care that much, but every once in a while I'm just dying for a soda. And I was in ketosis. I was doing keto. And I have one of these CO2 infusers, you know, like bubbles CO2. Oh, yeah. And I have cold water in the fridge, and I just pour that into there. And so it takes in the CO2 better. You know, hot water the CO2 would dissipate out of the water. So you keep it cold. And I put some tangerine essential oil in there and a little bit of stevia. And then I put some vanilla extract, like genuine vanilla, and it was amazing, man. It was like
It's like orange Julius or something.
You got to write these recipes down, man. This and the bacon liver pate.
Yeah.
You got to have like a little section on your website that's like recipes by Dr. J.
I probably do. Yeah, that What I Use page is such a giant hit. I get like multi-thousands. Like I get probably 3,000 unique visitors every week to that page.
I was blown away when I read that, man. It was a lot. It was so much to take in, and
I
many
appreciate
things.
It. Yeah. No, well, it's funny because it was just an afterthought page. I was kind of like, well, people keep asking me about this, so I'll throw it on there.
It's great because it's immediately actionable. Though I can go in there and I can immediately see what products I'm using that, that have bad things
chemicals.
In them.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it because, like I said, it was such an afterthought, and it's built up over time. Because immediately people were looking at that page from all over the place. I'm like, well, I better keep building this page.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's good to hear.
I watched that documentary Stink,
right?
What I saw on that was terrific, man. I'm currently in the process of transitioning to fragrance-free stuff.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. If you're not sure, go fragrance-free.
It's just I'm such a moderate in a lot of things in my life, and like I'm not going overboard with any one thing or another. And I just wonder where the line is. Like, I want to have the ability to use some aftershave.
Right.
So,
yeah. What I say in Estrogeneration, I just tell people to put on their clothes instead of on their skin.
Yeah. Right.
That's safe. I mean, you're still breathing it in, but that's nothing compared to rubbing it on your skin.
Yeah. And I feel like if you're doing, 9 out of 10 things,
exactly,
that's going to have a benefit.
You can get away with. Yep, you can get away with a lot of other stuff.
Right.
Yeah, 100%. Should we switch over to the gym?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're a slow twitch guy. So you're an endurance guy genetically, which is really interesting.
Right.
And I mean, I would try you because you have that slow twitch muscle fiber, and then you've got ADRB3, which is another rare endurance gene. It helps you break down fats and use them for fuel. And it's found in elite endurance athletes like Olympic runners and things like that. I would take advantage. I would do more, not necessarily just running or stuff like that, but more endurance training. So like instead of doing 3x10, or what kind of lifting? You said you lift heavy in your email, right?
Yeah. So obviously COVID has changed things. I've been doing P90X, which is a lot more higher rep ranges,
high intensity interval type stuff, maybe.
Yeah, that sort of thing, and it's higher. Like you do some pull-ups and push-ups and stuff, but you're busting out 15, 20 reps.
Right.
Whereas before that, I was at training gyms where you're lifting heavy shit.
Like 5x5 or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would try like 3x50, 3 sets of 50 reps, stuff like that. Like with your normal moves, whatever you're doing, try it. You'll see a massive amount of muscle growth. It's like a secret weapon when you have that gene.
Yeah, right on. Okay.
I've talked to like literally people that are competing in Mr. Olympia and stuff like that, and showed them this gene and had them switch over to doing that, and they're like, I wish I would have known about this 10 years ago.
Oh my God,
it's such
man.
a powerful lever to pull.
I would do it. You mentioned that variant assists in converting fat to energy.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So that kind of aligns with the other low carb recommendations in the top.
Yeah, you have a lot of consistent genes in terms of eating meat and in terms of which most people do, to be honest. I don't think our ancestors were vegans ever.
Yeah.
So it's not surprising that most people have genes where meat is really important. But every once in a while, it's funny because every once in a while I do bump into somebody who's vegan. Their genes are all compatible with it. It's phenomenal, and I'm okay with that. It's like rock on, man.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, as long as you're not doing Oreo cookies all the time.
Yeah, well,
and even there, it's funny. I bumped into people that handle carbs super, super well. That definitely happens as well. More common than the vegan thing, really. Wow. But it's pretty rare. Humans aren't built to eat lots of carbs. Most of us.
I'm having like flashbacks from all these discussions that I've had with friends where I'm trying to convince them to go on this low carb diet when the reality is that
sometimes, sometimes they can do it.
Yeah, but their genetic predisposition is totally different from mine, so those conversations are pointless.
True. Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing, like people get so dogmatic about their diet. And it's like, well, it works for me, so it must work for everybody else. And it's like, ugh,
Yeah.
I don't think you should think like that. But, it's that nuance. Nobody wants the nuance anymore. With Twitter and everything else, they just want one line.
Yeah, just tell me exactly the one pill that I can take that will magically make me better.
Right.
It's the same with every ideology.
So with your joints, that's more of a concern because you definitely have a lot of genes here. And what's interesting, you see all those HLA genes, HLA DRB1, DRB9, DQA1.
Yep.
And the plus on that one, by the way, the DRB9, that's a 4-fold increased risk for rheumatoid arthritis. And all the other ones are approximately 2-fold, so it adds up. But the good news is about that one, it's triggered by high insulin. So as long as your blood sugar is good and optimized, I'm not even worried about that. But it is important to know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because the other ones I'm not, like the interleukin, those IL-2 and IL-1 genes up above, those are just inflammation genes. So like if you're eating a bunch of garbage, like processed foods and stuff, you're chronically inflamed, yeah, you're going to have joint issues. Where some people can get away with it. I still don't recommend it, but some people can eat a bunch of processed foods and they don't have joint issues. In your case, but that's pretty fundamental. You're doing that already. But the TRAF1 at the top, that's your TNF-alpha receptor, TRAF1 gene.
Yeah.
And that's another 2-fold higher risk for rheumatoid related to a different cytokine called TNF-alpha. And so if your insulin's good, your blood sugar's good, you're not eating a bunch of processed food, and you still get joint pains way down the road, like say you're 70 or 50 or whatever, who knows, I would look into that gene. That's your best lever to pull because TNF-alpha is super, super well studied. Like researchers study the crap out of this gene. And so there's a lot of good solutions. But again, hopefully you don't have issues with it, but it's worth, I've talked to people in Boston that have rheumatoid. When they came out with an antibody against TNF-alpha, like an injection, because it's an antibody, so your stomach acid would destroy it. And people with like crazy rheumatoid arthritis, when they have this gene and they inject that antibody into their joints, it just like clears it right up. It's literally like a miracle.
Wow.
It's like goes from like crazy 10 out of 10 pain to like nothing.
The future of medicine.
Right. It's just so expensive to get these antibody injections, because they're patented.
Yeah, right.
Like the drug companies have patents on them, so they charge whatever they want, which is outrageous prices, of course.
Yeah.
But once those patents come off, people are gonna, in 20 years, right? They have 20-year patents in America. Once they're off patent, and of course they're probably 10 years into the patent already. But once it gets off patent, people will start tapping into that. You'll hear about it, at some point in your lifetime. But
yeah.
But like I say, other than that, I'm not that worried about it because you're doing the right stuff. You're avoiding carbs or high carbs, and you're not eating a lot of processed food. You're sleeping, just the fundamentals. Gout, you have a couple of risk genes for gout, but I again doubt you have it because one of them is just as simple as staying hydrated, and the other one is a fructose transporter. So just be careful with fructose, right? And you are.
Okay.
So I'm not even worried about that. And it's funny, yesterday I was talking to somebody from Nashville, Tennessee, and he had this gene, SLC289, and he's had like 3 episodes of gout in his life. And of course he's older, right? He was like 60.
Yep.
It's cool. He invited me to Nashville, and I'll probably go down there. He knows all these professional musicians like Chris Jansen and Luke Combs, a bunch of people that you probably never heard of in Australia, but they're huge names over here.
Yeah, right on.
And I know a few people in Nashville.
Stars?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I love that music genre, so I'll probably go down there and hang out with him because there's a few other people that are down there that are friends of mine, like Ken Berry that is down there. Have you heard of Ken Berry on YouTube?
No, who's that? Ken Berry.
He's got like over 1 million subscribers on YouTube, and it was funny, man. When I first published my book, he sent me a message and saying, "Hey, I love your book, blah blah. How do you get out there, right? Like, how do you grow your YouTube channel and stuff? He was asking me, and now I've got 5,000 subscribers and he's got like 2 million.
Well, the advice you gave him must have worked.
Yeah. Yeah, so I take all the credit. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
He just does it full time, whereas I have a job at Mayo Clinic, so I'm not out there on the social media nearly as much, but I'm glad.
Yeah, right.
I'm thrilled for him because he's a cool guy, But he also in Nashville.
That's awesome.
But the point, what I was going to say, it's fructose, right? Like, I was going to bring up this guy I was talking to yesterday. He's had gout, and of course he was literally eating a standard American diet when he was having the gout, meaning like a lot of soda, a lot of processed stuff, probably tons of high fructose corn syrup in all the foods. It's even in the salad dressing over here,
Oh my God. Jesus.
And that's the key. And of course, what do the doctors tell him? When he goes to the doctors, they tell him to stop eating meat. Which is absurd, which has nothing to do with fructose. So that's, that's something to keep, just kind of be aware of at least. But you'll probably never get it if you stay hydrated and avoid fructose. That one gene for in your spinal discs category, even as a plus minus, that's a 2-fold higher risk of low back issues. So I would watch for that one.
Okay. Watch my deadlifts.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah,
don't,
and it says
don't
here,
go crazy on it.
curcumin.
Exactly, because curcumin inhibits interleukin, and that's another interleukin gene, another cytokine gene.
Okay.
But yeah, be really careful. Like, don't go on deadlifting. Like, don't go like full Hulk.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, be really careful with it. Blood pressure. You have a couple genes.
I do have fairly high blood pressure.
Right.
Generally, it's
I'm not surprised.
135 or so.
Yeah. Yeah, and it goes up with age, of course, so it's harder. And that AGT gene is the one to focus on, obviously. That's angiotensinogen. It's like, basically, if you ever need to get on blood pressure meds, don't be afraid of it, because you have a gene that makes it hard. And it should be targeting angiotensin. There's so many different categories of blood pressure medications, and doctors usually just guess. It's just a crapshoot.
Okay.
Until they get lucky and find one that works. And in your case, there's no reason to do all that guessing. You've got your genes. They're pretty clear. That's the big risk gene.
Angiotensin's the way to go.
Mm-hmm. And again, try and avoid that,
Yeah. It says here as well, beets.
Yeah, with that nitric oxide gene, because beet juice increases nitric oxide production. So that's phenomenal for your blood vessels. Citrulline too. Like, citrulline is a lower carb way to do the same thing.
I have the citrulline just for gym.
Yeah, that's exactly what you'd want to do. Just take it as a pre-workout or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, I'd probably do that. Especially if you have a little borderline blood pressure, higher blood pressure.
Yeah. Just aspirin.
What's that?
What, not aspirin?
Aspirin? No.
Oh, that wouldn't. Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah.
Is aspirin in there?
No, it's not. Sorry, I was just thinking of the heart instead of blood pressure.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because every once in a while I recommend aspirin, like a baby aspirin for people. But it's really rare. There's a gene called F5, factor 5. In fact, one of the people on my podcast had that gene where they tend to have thicker blood, basically, and the aspirin is really, really good at inhibiting that. But again, really rare. I rarely recommend aspirin. I'd be shocked if it was in my paragraph. It'd be like a typo or something. Which has happened. Bone strength, you've got phenomenal bone strength, right? You've got 2 pluses that actually give you stronger bones.
Never broke a bone.
Not surprised, man. If you get a DEXA scan, like, send me an update email, because they'll probably be raving about your bone density. They'll be like, man, your bone density is just iron, Because the reason I have
to do that.
I don't usually put good genes, but again, a lot of people have bad genes in this section, and they also have good genes, and it kind of offsets. It's like, oh, now you've got normal bone strength instead of good or bad.
Yeah.
So I like to factor in the offset genes.
Nice.
Yeah, and then the final gene here is the pain sensitivity, right? Your low pain sensitivity with that COMT, but this one's not like extremely low sensitivity. There's some other genes that are far more impactful here, but it's still less pain. You feel less pain than normal.
So is that like in any sense?
No, there's some, like, that's the thing about this gene. People say, like, oh, when I have nerve pain, like I throw my back or something, it's crazy pain, but then like if I get hit in the face. Like there's different. I don't feel anything. You know what I mean? Like there's
like
certain
if someone
types
slaps
of pain.
me, or if I dislocate my knee or something.
Exactly. I think it's like mechanical pain versus proprioceptive pain or something. Like there's different categories of pain, and this one, it's definitely different in those categories, and I don't know enough to know the differences, and at least in how this gene impacts that. But
yeah, right.
Just something to know, because the key with this gene is you got to pay attention to your pain. Like say you're doing 3 sets of 50 or something, and you feel some pain in your elbow. Well, pay attention to that because, excuse me, because you don't want to blow out your elbow, or blow your bicep off the, tendon or whatever. Yeah. But other than that, it's not really a health issue necessarily. Yeah. Did you have any questions on that gym section, or do you want to switch over to sleep?
Let's move on to sleep, man. I feel like I'm gonna have to listen to this podcast back a couple times to get everything down. I'm certainly going to send it to my fam, because half the genetic lineage is from them. So.
Oh yeah, right. Well, in terms of sleep, yesterday I talked to somebody who has 0 genes in this section, right? And of course you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but the 2 at the very bottom I'm the least worried about, because you get plenty of sunshine there, right? Yeah. With just being in Australia, so I'm not worried about seasonal affective disorder, meaning depression in the winter. So I'd probably just ignore those, because you're basically living the solution.
The solution we're pretty far south here. Like I've thought it. Like I'm conscious about getting light in my eyes in the morning, to help with the melatonin and stuff, and a couple of other things. But never really felt sad in the winter. Yeah, if you were in Minnesota, trust me, with 2 genes in that section, you'd have some issues. But and then you're definitely more of a late stay up later kind of person in terms of your genes. Oh yeah. So again, it's plus minus, right? If you go back to the top of this section, PER3, that's the only gene indicating whether you're a morning person or a night person. And again, plus minus, so you could kind of go either way, but if I had to guess, you're probably more of a night person. Yeah. And generally that's better for you. Like I wouldn't fight it unless you need to for your career or something. And even there, I'd probably try and trick your brain into thinking it's really late at night when you go to sleep, even if it's like 7 p.m. But it's just a plus minus. So it's not like super extreme. I'm really big in my sleep. Hacking my sleep is one of my favorite things. I'm writing a piece at the moment called How to Sleep Like a Caveman. It's all about kind of taking that same paleo diet philosophy, but applying it to how we sleep and preparing, with low light and temperature changes and all of this stuff to induce sleep. Yeah, I was out in San Francisco not too long ago, and I was doing a DNA consult from a friend of mine, plus just hanging out. And I was staying at his place, and he has like no curtains, and he lives in downtown San Francisco, so there's like street lights just pouring into his room that I was staying in. And his room too, it wasn't just like my room, it was the whole place. It was like, dude, I mean, he had blinds, but they were just like those white plastic blinds. Shocking. I mean, it was just like you could get up in the night and walk around, and you could see everything. Yeah, no, that's horrible. It's insane. I've like I couldn't believe it. I nicknamed my bedroom the slaughter room because it's completely blacked out. It has to be, right? Alfoil on the windows, like nothing's getting in there, not through the cracks at all. Well, I always joke because the way I test this, I might even have this on my What I Use page, but I might not. I probably should. When I get these blackout curtains, I go to the store and buy curtains for my bedroom and my kids' bedrooms and things, and most of them say they're like 100% light blocking, blackout curtains, and then if you put them over your head in the store and you look up at the light, you'll see light coming through, and it's like, dude, these aren't blackout, like I can see light coming. Mate. You know what I mean? So I just walk around the store like putting curtains on my head. like having a plastic bag on my head or something. That's what it looks like. You got to seal it up pretty good. And I don't know if you've heard of these. There's one called Grow blinds, GRO blinds. In America too, or is it just Australia? I think so. Maybe it's an Australian thing, but these are fantastic blackout blinds with suction cups, so you can travel with them.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and
that's a huge
recommend
problem
picking some of those up because they're great. Like I use them in my bedroom.
Good.
Just as a permanent structure, but yeah, traveling with them as well.
Yeah, that's an issue, man. When you travel, it's like those hotels are the worst. I oftentimes will take if you get 2 beds, I'll take one of the sheets or one of the blankets and put it up on the blinds and things. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I'll shoot you a link to this product.
Oh, I already looked it up. Yeah, I just typed it in and I found it right away.
Cool.
Yeah, you're
nice.
right. Yeah, well, for you, in terms of sleep hacking, the last 2 genes in this whole thing, of course, are the clock gene and the ABCC9 gene. Clock is probably the big one because that's ++. And they've done clinical studies on that gene with lithium and found benefits in terms of deep sleep. So I would tinker with that. And magnesium, of course, is huge, but you're already taking magnesium.
Yep. I have a threonate that I don't take regularly, but I'm struggling to sleep. I'll take that in the evening.
That's this gene too. Like this gene is a higher responder to magnesium in terms of sleep. I would just take it all the time.
Right on.
And then
the different what is it, substrate? No, that's not it.
The different
the
chelators.
Type of magnesium.
Yeah. Not that much. No. I mean, people say that it does. I don't think it really does, to be honest. I've looked pretty hard at the research. The thing about the magnesium, it matters if you're deficient. So like if you're absolutely desperate for magnesium and then you take magnesium glycinate versus magnesium oxide, the glycinate's going to be way better. You know what I mean? In terms of getting into your system. But the problem is if you're already have a good level of magnesium in your body just maintains that. Like it doesn't matter what form you take. Then it's a question of, like how does your digestive system handle it and things like that. Because people get a lot of diarrhea and stuff if you overdose it.
Right. Yeah.
Especially with some forms versus other forms and things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm one of these people that I don't really think it matters that much. Although there are some sleep genes where glycine is particularly important. You don't have any of those genes, but I recommend people supplement glycine. And of course, magnesium glycinate is just a glycine linked to a magnesium. And so they're basically increasing their glycine, you know what I mean? And they think they're just taking magnesium, but they're actually taking magnesium glycinate. So they're taking glycine and magnesium, and they improve their sleep. So then they, of course, get dogmatic about it and think everybody should take magnesium glycinate because it massively impacts them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
And then they get religious about it.
But that's only for people that have that particular gene.
Correct. Well, you can still take it. It's still good, but it's not going to be massively important, right?
Yeah,
and even for people with that gene, to be honest, I'd just take glycine. I would just take the amino acid and then take whatever form of magnesium you want. Because the problem with glycinate, if you take it as a powder, it tastes disgusting. It tastes like ammonia or something. Not that I've tasted ammonia, it just smells like that.
Yeah.
Whereas like magnesium citrate is tasteless, so you can just throw some powder in a glass of water and drink it, and then you're not taking more pills. Because you have to take a lot of magnesium to get the daily value.
Yeah, that's true.
So anyway, that's my 2 cents on it. And of course, the ultimate is tracking your sleep, in order to determine whether you're doing anything that's beneficial. And potassium is another one. You could tinker with potassium supplements as well. Before you go to bed, those would be the 2 suggestions: lithium, potassium. In terms of tracking your sleep and seeing differences, that would probably be the biggest bang for your buck genetically.
Lithium.
Low dose, 5 milligrams per day. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually have some of that. I took it for a month or so.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Do you track your sleep at all?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Oh, good. Good. Yeah. Well, good, man. Yeah. I mean, it's huge. Yeah. People that don't track it, it's hard. It's so hard to guess because, like, for me, my REM sleep is pretty stable. And REM is like your emotional reset. So if you get crappy REM sleep, then you really feel grouchy.
Right, yeah.
So you feel it, right? But deep sleep, if you barely get any deep sleep, you don't really feel that different. But it's terrible for you.
Yeah.
And deep is the one that I have to work harder to get it up. And without tracking, it's just a shot in the dark because I don't feel different.
Yeah. When I blacked out my room for the first time, it was about a 10% boost in deep.
Right.
Yeah. And same with when I started taking NR.
Oh, that's interesting. That's huge.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, I'm going to have to try that. I'm going to have to try it for a longer time. I have some of that in my cupboard right now. I have literally like a plastic tub, like one of those plastic bins, like knee-high.
Did you just order it through your clinic?
Well, yeah, because it's all just experimental stuff.
Yeah, nice.
So I go way over the board, but my wife can't believe it. But you got to try it.
Yeah, but I guess
you got to
at
test
least
it all out.
the purity is there.
Right.
Yeah.
But I was gonna say, man, any questions? Kind of looking back over the whole thing.
Man, it's I think it's something I'm gonna have to re-listen to it again and again because a lot of the stuff's so interesting. I got pages and pages of notes here, just writing down so much stuff.
Right. Well, that's good. Yeah, at least we got it on record.
Yeah, right on.
And in terms of the file, if you don't mind, just Dropboxing it or something like that.
Sure. Yeah, I'll do that right away.
Yeah, and I forgot to mention on my email. For people on the podcast, I send them a T-shirt, and I usually roast some coffee for them and stuff. But the thing is, before you get too excited, with Australia, I won't.
Yeah, no problem, man.
One time, somebody from Australia who's fairly famous, they sent me a message asking for my book.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, rock on. How many copies do you want? And they wanted like 5 copies or something. I can't remember, but the shipping was like over $100. And I was like, I should have just sent them $100 and said, here, go on Amazon and buy the book, Yeah, no. You could have bought 50 copies.
We're a little bit further away than you guys.
Yeah, so the shipping was a nightmare.
Yeah, well, when you come visit Australia,
right on, man. I'll drop one off.
You'll have to
and I probably
deliver
will.
it.
Yeah, I probably will, man. I'll make a note. I'll definitely get to Australia someday because I want to go
when you come down,
diving.
man, we'll have to go hunting.
Yeah, you're a hunter?
Yeah, I get some deer down here.
Oh man, that's awesome. Yeah, Australia is a cool place for hunting. They have all those exotic or invasive species.
Yeah, and we're allowed to kill kangaroos here as well.
Oh yeah, it's funny. People in America, they think kangaroos are just like these little angels, But people from Australia, do you call them roos?
Yeah.
Like people in Australia, they're like, yeah, I was out roo hunting. It's like, wait, what? That's what they say, like roo hunting,
Yeah, you can go down to the supermarket and get roo steaks.
That's hilarious. Yeah.
It's pretty great.
Trust me, man, I'll make a note, and if I ever go there, I'll at least send you a message, and we'll do coffee or something because I'll get there. I gotta go spearfishing over there. That's on the list.
Yeah. Yeah, we have some great scuba spots as well. I don't know if you ever get underwater.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember this. I actually sent you a message on Instagram a little bit ago with this coffee maker that I got made. It's like a copper one. It's like an AeroPress, but because the AeroPress, they only make them in this plastic. It's absolute rubbish.
Right.
Of course, you got to pour hot water over coffee oils.
Exactly.
In this soft plastic.
Exactly.
Oh god, that's a recipe for disaster.
Right.
So I got this copper one made up, and it's great. This thing's amazing.
Nice. Yeah. No, I see it now, right? Because you messaged me recently.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Because I tagged you in the post.
Yeah. Yeah, which I appreciate, man. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, and thanks for doing the podcast version. I really appreciate it, and it was good talking to you.
Yeah, you too, man. And yeah, I don't know if you'll remember it, but shoot me a message when it's up, or I'll just keep an eye out for it. But I'll send that file straight through.
All right, cool. All right.
Awesome.
Take care.
All right, thanks so much, Anthony.
Yeah, bye.